Can you solve these exam questions meant for a 12-year-old? Now, tough math questions at the primary school leaving examinations or PSLE are once again in the spotlight. 3 questions from the second segment or paper 2 have been circulating online since the paper last Friday, the 27th of September, which is said to have left some students in tears and drew a backlash from some parents. Now, here with us to tell us more is journalist Jolene Ang. Hi, Jolene.
Hi.
Hi, Jolene. Welcome to the show. Now, you know, this is not the first time the public has taken issue with tricky questions at the PSLE math exam level. Do you think there is a case for these concerns?
So parents have definitely complained about the math paper in particular in recent years. So for example, in 2017, I think there was also another question that they said was tricky. So it was, it asked students to sort of estimate, They gave them it was about a roll of ribbons, and so one roll has a XX length, and then one piece of ribbon is XX, and then they asked how many rolls does it take. So it was tricky in the sense that the students had to kind of round up the rolls. So in the end, it's actually +1. Yeah. So tutors that we spoke to actually said that. It could be the case that for math in particular, because there's a right answer and a wrong answer, that's why when pupils come out of the exam hall, they try and recall the questions, and then they get their parents or their tutors to solve for the right answer.
I think they'll try to compare and check the answers.
Yeah, so for languages, maybe it's more subjective, so there is not really a right answer, so there's more room for discussion there. It's not so black and white. So I think that's kind of the reason why the math paper has been consistently coming up in the spotlight.
I mean, it's more black and white in that sense. Yeah. Now, I mean, Jolene, in your story, you also mentioned that some parents, felt that the questions were tricky, but not out of the syllabus scope. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
So we did send some queries to SEAB, and in their response, they said that there will always be a mix of basic, average, and challenging questions, right? And that is to kind of maintain the standards of the papers over the years. And some parents as well, they said that actually maybe it's good to have these kind of challenging questions because it helps to set the kids apart, whether it's the good ones or maybe the slightly better ones. Yeah, so we also spoke to 10 parents yesterday when we were doing our story. So 3 of the parents actually said that their kids found it manageable. Yeah, so and one of the parents that we quoted said that he had discussed it with his son who had done the paper, and he also looked at the question himself. He thought it was manageable, but a lot of times it's actually quite subjective. So
I can imagine.
Now, and actually it's been happening for quite a number of years, the exams are focusing a bit more on application skills as well as actually solving the questions. So because the syllabus or the teaching actually involves learning how to apply, so technically you can say that the questions actually do fall within the syllabus.
Yeah. I mean, going on what you said about application, the focus on application, I mean, some members of the public, of course, would find it unreasonable that to expect kids to think creatively under pressure during an exam scenario. But at the same time, educators feel that the exam, like you said, should test the application skills. I mean, what's the point of just testing if you memorize, A to Z, Like, do you think that we can ever find a balance between the two sides?
I think firstly, there is quite a fine line between thinking creatively and learning how to apply these skills. So for example, a few years back, there was also a lot of debate about this question about the $1 coins. Not sure if you recall. They asked the students to estimate the weight of, I think, 8 $1 coins, but it was an MCQ question. So the options are like 6 grams, 60 grams, 600 grams, 6 kg, that kind. So some parents at that time, they also raised the point that this seems more like an IQ question, or like it's not really related to math. But news reports at the time, and I do agree with myself as well, that it's a test of estimation skills and how you apply it. So even though logically you should not expect the kid to know how heavy a coin weighs, right? It's not too far off to see that they can make some kind of estimation.
And I guess it's also useful for students to kind of develop. I mean, not just they're all-rounded skills, like not just by the book and everything.
Yeah, and I mean for that question in particular, it was also an MCQ question, right? And it was only worth 1 or 2 marks. So I think what is different for this year is that the 3 questions that were circulating online, they were more open-ended, and we covered some of those questions in our story yesterday as well. So, like for example, one of it was to find a pattern, in the figures, and it's the kind of thing where either you see it or you don't. So that's the reason why a lot of the kids came out crying, because if you don't see it, you can't even start. So you just leave the whole thing blank, and then that's when they really get demoralized. Yeah. So I think back to what you said about finding a balance. Yeah. It's also about looking at how much of a weightage the question has, and whether it's reasonable to conclude that the kid can actually manage it in such time constraints and under such pressure. Yeah, and of course, in the event that they are not able to answer, right, then it's also important that the parents know how to kind of mitigate the fallout.
I think that's very important. Yeah. I mean, for kids, they might be still very young and might be a little bit vulnerable in a sense. So I think what you said, maybe parents can really step in and you tell them that it's not the end of the world, even if you don't get the question correct and everything. Well, thanks again, Jolene, for coming onto the show. I think a lot of parents out there, were very worried about this situation, and I think it will be always an ongoing process to find really a good balance between testing our students' application skills and as well as their knowledge, I guess, in a sense. So thanks again, Jolene, for coming on the show.
Thanks.
Of course, if you want to read Jolene's full story, you can always head on down to our website. It's straitstimes.com. Now, those were the top stories of the day. For more news and videos, head on down to our website, straitstimes.com. Once again, I'm Dylan, and thanks for tuning in. Join us tomorrow for more stories on The Big Story.